Before we get into it, I'm trying something new with this video. So I'll just start this video by saying who wins. Clarke wins this fight, and if you want to find out why, then watch the entire video and leave a comment while you're at it. Let's get into it. From the Resident Evil verse. An ordinary man is forced to fight for his survival against biological nightmares. We don't know much about Ethan's early life, but his life would take an actual 180 when he would go to the Baker household in 2017 in an attempt to find his missing girlfriend Mia. Upon arriving, Ethan discovers the Baker house to be a place of unimaginable horror. He soon realizes that Mia has been held captive and subjected to experiments involving a strange mold that has transformed her and the Bakers into violent mutated beings. Despite Mia's initial aggression, under the mold's influence, Ethan manages to momentarily free her before she is recaptured. Ethan navigates the decrepit house and its surrounding areas, facing off against the twisted members of the Baker family, Jack, Margaret, and Lucas. Each encounter pushes Ethan to his limits as he uncovers the horrific experiments conducted by the Bakers under the influence of a young girl named Evelyn, who has the ability to control minds and accelerate the mold infection. Throughout his journey, Ethan discovers the tragic backstory of the Bakers and their descent into madness after coming into contact with Evelyn, who was created as a bioweapon. As Ethan battles through grotesque monsters and solves intricate puzzles, he uncovers a way to cure Mia and himself of the mold infection. In the climax of the game, Ethan confronts Evelyn, who reveals her true monstrous form. With the help of a mysterious organization and his sheer determination, Ethan ultimately defeats Evelyn. In the aftermath, Ethan and Mia are rescued, but the traumatic events leave a lasting impact on them both. A couple of years later, Ethan would have to go through yet another very traumatic experience. Yay for Ethan, but unfortunately, this would be his last. Chris Redfield unexpectedly arrives with his team, killing Mia and kidnapping Ethan and his daughter Rose. Ethan wakes up from the attack to find himself in a mysterious snow-covered European village. Who is determined to rescue his daughter, ventures into the village, quickly discovering it to be overrun by hostile creatures. The village is ruled by 4 lords, each controlling a different part of the region under the influence of Mother Miranda. Throughout the game, we learn that Ethan is actually infected by the mold. He died after his encounter with Jack Baker, but he would be revived by the mold. Ethan then goes on to kill each of the 4 lords and he defeats Mother Miranda. But after he defeats Miranda, he begins to slowly disintegrate and decides to stay behind to destroy the Mega Mycete, which is the source of the mold, with this being the end of Ethan's story. So Ethan is 5'11" and weighs around 170 pounds. He can probably lift around the 150 pound range, but since he was infected with the mold, I'd imagine we can bump that up to 200 pounds since he yanks this metal grate out of the wall and pushes this bookshelf in front of the door. He's able to knock arrows out of the air with his knife, and he narrowly dodges getting decapitated by this metal beam. So he's also got some pretty good reflexes. He got some training from Chris Redfield, and he's also got that survivor instinct after going through 2 horrifying experiences. But arguably, Ethan's durability and regeneration is what makes him a beast. He's been stabbed, beaten, had limbs cut off. He's one tough bastard. With the mold manipulating his body, he can now even reattach his lost limbs. He's had his heart ripped out and still fought to the very end. Ethan has a large arsenal of weapons. Pistols, magnums, rifles, explosives, shotguns. He's got a lot of stuff. But how does this stack up against the deadliest engineer of all time? Clarke, a systems engineer, is part of a rescue mission sent to the USG Ishimura, a planet cracker mining ship that has gone silent. Upon arrival, Isaac discovers that the ship's crew has been slaughtered and transformed into horrific creatures called necromorphs. And the reason for this transformation is caused by the influence of an alien artifact known as the Marker. As he navigates the ship to find his girlfriend Nicole, who was a medical officer on board, Isaac battles necromorphs left and right and uncovers the dark secrets of the marker. Ultimately, he learns that Nicole had committed unalive before he arrived, and the messages he received from her were hallucinations induced by the marker. Despite destroying the marker and battling a massive necromorph called the Hive Mind, Isaac barely escapes the Ishimura. 3 years after the events of the first game, Isaac wakes up in a hospital on the Sprawl, a space station orbiting Saturn. He is suffering from amnesia and severe mental trauma caused by his previous encounters with the marker. Isaac discovers that another marker has been created on the Sprawl, leading to a brand new necromorph outbreak. As he fights through the station, Isaac's mental condition deteriorates, plagued by hallucinations of Nicole, and with the help of new survivors including Ellie Langford, Isaac ultimately destroys the marker on the Sprawl, but not before confronting his own guilt and grief over Nicole's death. Isaac is found hiding on a lunar colony when he's dragged back into the fight against the markers by EarthGov soldiers and Ellie Langford. They travel to the frozen planet of Tau Volantis, believed to be the origin of the necromorphs. Isaac and his team uncover the truth about the markers and their creators, the Brethren Moons, which are massive, sentient necromorphs. Despite significant personal loss and conflict, including battling his own inner demons and strained relationships, Isaac works to stop the necromorph threat. The game concludes with Isaac and his partner John Carver managing to thwart the immediate threat. Though, the final fate of Isaac is left ambiguous. Let's just skip over the DLC because I don't think it actually happens. I think it's hallucinations that are being made up in Isaac's mind. It is cool we got to see Brethren Moons though. Now to Isaac's stats. Isaac is around 6 feet tall and weighs in at around 220 to 230 pounds. Now Isaac has gotta be pretty damn strong, considering he's able to punch the heads off of slashers and can stomp hard enough to destroy bodies. He can break free of a slasher's grasp, which is capable of prying open elevator doors. He also wears his rig and his engineering suit. We're sticking with the engineering suit for this battle because it's the most iconic suit in the Dead Space series. But being reasonable, Isaac can probably lift around 300 to 350 pounds. Isaac's suit thrusters can catch up to a speeding train, he can dodge point-blank javelin shots, and he can swat away a pistol before it's fired. Isaac can even combat roll in his armor, which is pretty damn ridiculous. He can take hits from slashers, which are capable of making a human unrecognizable after they're done with them. His armor can survive getting hit with lurker spines, and his armor is also durable enough to shrug off the corrosive bile of a puker. He's been sent flying by explosives and necromorphs alike and still gets back up. In this scene here, this alien necromorph tosses him off of a cliff. Oh, and he survived this. He got back up right away. Anyways, considering Isaac is an engineer, he's pretty smart. Probably one of the smarter horror protagonists. He built a plasma cutter out of a flashlight and a tissue laser, performed brain surgery on himself to access the marker's information, and he can also hotwire machinery. Before I cover Isaac's weapons and tools, let me cover what his suit can do. The Resource Integration Gear, or also known as the Rig, is the literal backbone of Isaac's suits. The Rig allows Isaac to monitor his vitals, help navigate the environment, communicate with other rigs, store and read data logs, and it can also keep track of Isaac's body temperature in extremely cold environments. Magnets in Isaac's boots allow him to stay grounded in zero gravity environments. Thrusters allow Isaac to fly and steer himself in zero gravity. His thrusters work just fine in liquids, as seen when he maneuvered through a massive necromorph's stomach. His suit also has a built-in oxygen system, allowing Isaac to breathe in vacuums or poisonous areas for a limited time. It also works underwater. He has a built-in Geiger counter and radiation protection, which was used when Isaac removed radioactive materials from the USM Valor. A stasis module, Isaac can launch energy blasts that drastically slow down any object it strikes. It stays like that for a couple of seconds before returning to normal. Stasis can even slow down rapid unmanned transport vehicles to a crawl. It does have a limited number of shots, but it recharges over time. His Kinesis module allows him to lift and throw various objects. The largest object he's lifted with it is a meteorite, but he can throw slasher blades and poles at people to pin them to walls. But the kicker is that he can only use kinesis on inanimate objects, or dead things, but if they're alive, he can't kinesis it. Now, Isaac doesn't use real weapons. He survives with what he can find. He uses his environment to his advantage. So, here's all of Isaac's weapons. Let's go down the list. The plasma cutter, a standard mineral cutter meant for breaking apart rocks. Alt-fire rotates the cutter's beam 90 degrees for horizontal/vertical shots. The line gun is basically just a bigger plasma cutter with a wider beam, and the alt-fire can launch a mine. Pulse rifle, a triple-barreled energy rifle, and the only real gun in Dead Space 1. It has a wacky alt-fire where Isaac kneels down and it shoots in a circle above him. But in Dead Space 2, they gave it a grenade launcher alt-fire, which is arguably much better. The Ripper is a circular saw that can telekinetically spin a blade a few feet ahead, but the alt-fire can just launch a saw blade right away. The Javelin gun can launch javelins that can impale enemies on walls, and the alt-fire sends an electric current through the last javelin fired. The Flamethrower. Those flames, pretty simple. The alt-fire launches a napalm grenade. Force gun, a kinetic energy weapon functionally similar to a shotgun that just knocks enemies back and can tear off skin. Alt-fire produces a narrow beam that deals much more damage. The Seeker rifle is literally just a sniper rifle. Alt-fire zooms the scope, increasing the gun's damage. Contact beam, a kinetic energy weapon that requires charging to be used effectively. Alt-fire shoots into the ground, causing a shockwave with a stasis effect that knocks all nearby enemies down. Detonator deploys mines with laser tripwires. The alt-fire can deactivate the mines for safe retrieval. The rivet gun is basically just a massive nail gun with rapid fire ammo. Alt-fire detonates the last 5 or so shots fired, making them ricochet. So, I've covered Isaac's weapons and I've already said he wins, but I'll elaborate even further to push forward my point. So first off, Ethan does have real guns, but Isaac's suit would be able to take a bit of gunfire from like a rifle and pistol, but not too much because he's wearing an engineering suit, not the advanced suit or military suit that's more focused on ballistic defense. Let's not forget, Isaac has his kinesis, so he can simply use kinesis on nearby objects and use them as cover. And throw them straight at Ethan. Isaac can always fire back with his own weaponry, which can tear apart human beings with ease. Also, sure, Ethan does have regeneration, he can attach his limbs, but Isaac has fought enemies with far stronger regeneration, and he's dealt with them. When Ethan starts using his stronger weaponry, like RPGs or a grenade launcher, Isaac will have some trouble. Oh, but wait a second, Isaac has stasis. Without even giving Ethan a chance, Isaac could just freeze Ethan and light him up with his plasma cutter or whatever weapon he feels like using. You know, now that we're thinking about it, Isaac is actually one of the stronger horror game protagonists. If you guys have anybody who would be more of an equal match to Isaac Clarke, then put it in the comments below. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and check out my Discord while you're at it. Mortal Wound, out.